Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 10 2017 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic, for the second straight week, it was another solid, positive moving week for both sets of my picks. So last week for the Fanatic against the spread, I went 8-4-1, and straight up I went 9-4. The only four losses I had were Buffalo, since they lost to the Jets, Seattle losing to the Redskins, the Texans losing to the Colts, but they didn't have Deshaun Watson, which I didn't find out until after I did my video, and the Cowboys beating the Chiefs. So kudos to those four teams for pulling out victories there. So it wasn't like the 12-1 week I had last week, one of the best weeks I've ever had making picks, but I will take a 9-4 week straight up, and I will take it against the spread week of 8-4-1. And now overall for the year against the spread, I am now 65-62-4 against the spread, so I finally hit above 500. So hopefully if I can continue to string weeks together, I can get up to about 54 to 57% against the spread, which will be a new high for me, because last year it took me till about the end of the year to get above 500. And now straight up, I am 86-46. Which equals to about 65% straight up. So I'm really doing well straight up. I hope I can just continue to plow through, and if I can hit my high total for this year of 66 to 68% straight up correct. So really hoping it goes well. I'm just going to go straight into my picks. I don't have that much time, but I'm going to go right into my picks. Before I do that, I want to tell everybody the four teams that are on bye this week. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Oakland Raiders, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Philadelphia Eagles all have byes this week. So if you have Alex Smith, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs defense, Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Marshawn Lynch, Michael Crabtree, Seth Roberts, the Ravens defense, Alex Collins, Buck Allen, Mike Wallace, Jerry Maclin, Tucker, or Wentz, Ajayi, Jeffrey, the Eagles defense, Shake Elliott. If you have any of those players on your fantasy teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. Alright, it's time for my picks. So on Thursday, when the 5-3 Seattle Seahawks go to the 4-4 Arizona Cardinals, the Seattle Seahawks are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Arizona here plus 5.5, but I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 6-2 New Orleans Saints go to the 5-3 Buffalo Bills, the New Orleans Saints are 3-point favorites in this game. I like New Orleans here -3, and New Orleans straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-4 Green Bay Packers go to the 3-5 Chicago Bears, the Chicago Bears are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay here plus 5.5, but I will take the Chicago Bears here straight up. Next game, when the 0-8 Cleveland Browns go to the 4-4 Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 12.5-point favorites in this game. That is a massive number to eat the points, but it is the Cleveland Browns, and I think with Detroit, they've gained some confidence. They had only their second win in the last 27 years at Lambeau, and they looked pretty impressive doing it. And even though the Browns are going to feel rested, and they may feel motivated, and also with the fact that Josh Gordon can come back in a few weeks, I'm going to eat the 12.5 points and tell you guys to take Detroit -12.5 and Detroit straight up. Alright, next game, when the 6-2 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 3-5 Indianapolis Colts, or let me see, or are they 3-6? Let me see. Sorry, the 3-6 Indianapolis Colts. When the 6-2 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 3-6 Indianapolis Colts, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 10-point favorites in this game. I'm going to tell you guys to take Indianapolis plus 10, but the Pittsburgh Steelers straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-5 Los Angeles Chargers go to the 5-3 Jacksonville Jaguars, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Jacksonville here -3.5, and Jacksonville straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-5 New York Jets go to the 2-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, The New York Jets are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Jets here, -2.5, and the New York Jets straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-5 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 5-3 Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Titans are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like Cincinnati here, +4.5, but I will take the Tennessee Titans straight up. Next game, when the 6-2 Minnesota Vikings go to the 4-4 Washington Redskins, this game is a pick'em, essentially, or I'm sorry, it's a 1-point game, so essentially it's a pick'em game, and the Vikings are 1-point favorites in this game. I like the Minnesota Vikings here, -1, and the Minnesota Vikings straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-5 Houston Texans go to the 6-2 LA Rams, the LA Rams are 11.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here, -11.5, and the LA Rams straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-3 Dallas Cowboys go to the 4-4 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Dallas here, +2.5, and Dallas straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-7 New York Giants go to the 0-9 San Francisco 49ers, the New York Giants are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take San Francisco here, +2.5, but I'm going to take the New York Giants straight up. And then the Sunday night game, when the 6-2 New England Patriots go to the 3-5 Denver Broncos, the New England Patriots are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I like New England here, -7.5, and New England straight up. And then the Monday night game, when the 4-4 Miami Dolphins go to the 6-3 Carolina Panthers, the Carolina Panthers are 10-point favorites in this game. I like Miami here, +10, but I'll take the Carolina Panthers straight up. Alright, it's time for my thoughts on each game. The Seahawks over the Cardinals. With what you saw from the Seahawks on Sunday against the Washington Redskins, that was an embarrassing game. The Washington Redskins really didn't have anybody. They didn't have Jordan Breed out there. They didn't have Jamison Crowder out there. 4 of their offensive linemen were hurt. Josh Norman was coming back from a rib injury. A couple of their other defenders left the game. And the Seattle offense, they couldn't do anything against them. Wilson was getting too much pressure on him. Doug Baldwin, Lockett, Richardson. Lockett and Richardson really didn't do anything in the game. And they also were just shooting themselves in the foot. They committed 16 penalties on Sunday. And that's never a good recipe to get a victory. But I also do want to congratulate Kirk Cousins on being, I think, only the 6th or 7th quarterback to go into Seattle and win a football game. Very few people in the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era have been able to do that, so congratulations. And that is, in my opinion, Kirk Cousins' biggest win as a quarterback in his career by going to Seattle and winning that game with that ragtag of a roster. And when you look at Arizona, Arizona beat up a Niner team led by C.J. Beathard, and the Niners actually were not playing that bad. And Drew Stanton did his job. I thought Drew Stanton would be able to do enough over a C.J. Beathard, who's a young quarterback, who's only had 3 starts. Hasn't looked very good at any of them, but he's a rookie, and hopefully he has time, and I still think he'll be on this roster as the backup quarterback. And also they got a big boost from Adrian Peterson, who ran for 150-plus yards and carried the ball 37 times. But looking at these two teams, I feel like Seattle, they should be able to win this game because they're going to feel motivated after that kind of tough, gritty loss to get right back on the field. They remember what happened last year in Arizona, the 9-9 tie, where both Catanzaro and Hauschka missed overtime field goals to put this in the record books as one of the lowest scoring and toughest defensive games I've seen in recent memory. And there's just a part of me going, Adrian Peterson went off against the Buccaneers defense. The Buccaneers defense isn't that good. Then when he played the Rams the next week, he got bottled up, and the Cardinals got blown out 32-0. He plays a very bad Niners defense, and he can run the ball effectively 30-plus times over 150-plus yards, or 150 yards. Seattle's not going to let him run like that. Seattle pretty much just shut down Washington's run game. They really have shut down basically every running game they've faced this year, maybe besides the Titans. So if Seattle can shut down Adrian Peterson, I don't expect Drew Stanton to be able to make the throws that Carson Palmer can make against this defense, or any good enough throws in general, to lead the Cardinals to victory. Russell Wilson had a below-average game but I think he'll rebound this week against a Cardinal team that has shown with decent, competent offensive weapons that are against a Cardinal defense that against good, solid offenses at times have been absolutely embarrassed. Just look at the Philadelphia game and the Lions game for your proof there. But I'm going to take Seattle because I trust Russell Wilson. It's a short week. They've gained a little bit of confidence on the road. They'll be motivated from last year's game. And I just don't think if Adrian Peterson gets shut down by the Seahawks run defense, which I do expect to happen, I don't think Drew Stanton can win the game on his arm for them to win. But I am going to take the Cardinals plus 5.5 because even though Seattle has a couple back-to-back road wins now, one was a gritty grind-out game that it cost 5 turnovers against the Rams to win, and then they beat the hapless Giants. So I think, again, it's kind of one of those things where you'll be impressed that Seattle can win 3 straight road games, but it's the fact of their competition. They really haven't played anybody on the road respectable. But that's why I like Arizona here plus 5.5, but I'll take the Seattle Seahawks straight up. The next game, the Saints over the Bills. The New Orleans Saints are a Super Bowl contending team, and in my opinion, they're the third best team in the NFC behind the Los Angeles Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles. You look at the Saints in 5 of their last 6 games, and during this 6-game winning streak, they've given up under 20 points in every one of those games, and the offense is doing incredibly well. Drew Brees is leading the NFL with 71.6% completion percentage, 13 TDs and 4 interceptions, playing very consistent. But they've been able to run the ball very effectively. This has been probably the best running game the Saints have had since their Super Bowl run. And actually, they've ran the ball the most for their percentage of plays this year since the last time since their Super Bowl run. So they've been able to run the ball effectively. Ryan Ramczyk on the offensive line has really helped. Andrus Peat, Max Unger, and all those guys play really well on that offensive line. And losing Zach Strief really hasn't missed a beat over the last couple weeks, which is surprising because he's one of the better guards in the NFL. But you have that going for you. And I just look at the Bills last week against the Jets. And here's the thing. It wasn't like last week with the Bills and Jets. It wasn't like the Giants-Rams game or the Broncos-Eagles game where you just saw those defenses and that team just quit on their coaches and during that game. The Bills tried. The Bills tried their hearts out for 4 quarters, but they were dominated basically and creamed in 3 of them. And they were down 34-7 entering the 4th quarter, and then it took 2 garbage time TDs to kind of lighten that score up a bit. But just after putting all my confidence in Buffalo and thinking that the Bills are a playoff team, obviously they wanted to tell me, hey, Fanatic, don't give us that much confidence because we're not that good. Or we're a bit more inconsistent than you think. And I know going against the odds here, the Buffalo Bills have been undefeated at home, and they've been fairly consistent at home over the last couple years. And I know over the last couple weeks I've hyped up the Bills' home field advantage. But after what I've seen the Saints do over the last 7 games, they went into Carolina, they went into London, they went into Green Bay, and now they have another chance against a pretty hapless, maybe not hapless, wrong word, pretty inconsistent Buffalo Bills team. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints here. I think the Saints can generate pressure on Tyrod Taylor. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to be able to. I know Kelvin Benjamin's going to play and that's going to help, but I think Marshawn Lattimore, who's the Defensive Rookie of the Year, will do a good job in guarding him. And I just don't think that the Bills will be able to make enough plays on offense to limit the time that Drew Brees has to make. And I think that Bills defense, and I think the Saints defense can cause a couple turnovers that will be the difference in the game. And in every one of their games, in every one of their last 6 games for the New Orleans Saints, they've caused turnovers. So if they cause a couple turnovers like the Jets did, with that kind of offense, with the control they have, and Drew Brees, a quarterback, I feel like the Saints should be able to go into Buffalo and hand the Bills their first home loss of the year and improve to 7-2 and still prove that they're one of the underrated Super Bowl teams that nobody's really talking about. So that's why I like that's why I like New Orleans -3 and New Orleans straight up. Next game, the Bears over the Packers. This is easy. I think Chicago has been very good at home. They've basically been in every single one of their home games. They could have beat Minnesota. They could have beat Atlanta. They beat Pittsburgh. They beat Carolina there. And I just trust with this Bears team. This is one of those games where the defense and running game of the Bears is better than the Packers. both quarterbacks, have shown some flashes. Trubisky has a lot more upside because he's only entering his third game. Sorry, his fourth game as a starter. Brent Hundley's been around for a few years, and in the 2 games he's played, he hasn't really looked that well. He has 1 TD and 4 interceptions. But that's the thing. I trust this Bears defense to clamp down on the limited Packers offense, and Martellus Bennett will not be there for the Packers, which will hurt Hundley. And I just think, again, this Bears defensive running game will control the clock, grind it out, and the Packers, I think, will only put up between 6 to 13 points at most. And I think the Bears offense, with that running game, with Trubisky making 1 or 2 flare plays, can put up enough points to win the game. Just because I just see the Packers scoring that much on this Bears defense with the way this Bears defense has played through the entire year. But I am going to take the Bears against. I'm going to take the Packers against the spread because I think if Hundley can make some plays and Trubisky may make a mistake or two, that keeps his game within a 3 to 4 point range of how both these teams are. But I'm going to take the Bears. I trust the defensive running game to grind out and carry this team to a win over what the Packers can do with Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery, and that receiving core without Martellus Bennett. So that's why I like Chicago here, straight up. But I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers plus 5.5. Next game, the Lions over the Browns. The Detroit Lions finally have found their momentum. They snapped a 3-game losing streak that they had, and they put up one of their more solid games of the year this year on Monday Night Football. Stafford has 16 TDs and 4 interceptions. He had also 361 passing yards, and they were able to finally have a bit of a running game. And I just think, again, you're playing the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are the worst team in the NFL. They fumbled an A.J. McCarron trade that would have sent A.J. to the Browns for a 2nd and 3rd round pick. From the Bengals would give A.J. McCarron to the Browns in exchange for a 2nd and 3rd round pick from this year's draft, but they didn't get that through. And even though, again, I think DeShone Kizer, he was coming off the best game as a pro, I have to trust this Lions defense and Lions team that's gained a good amount of confidence with how they've been playing and how they played on Monday Night Football to be able to host the Browns and drop them to 0-10. Do I think the Browns have a shot? They could, because the Browns at times this year have shown a decent amount of effort. And I think for this game, I think 12.5 is a huge number to swallow, and I would be a little surprised, but not much to see the Browns cover. But I'm going to take the Lions here. They have the better quarterback overall, much more talented defense. The running games are about equal, even though I might give Cleveland an edge there. They're not going to have Joe Thomas, and until the Browns win, one of the easiest picks of the week is to go against the team that is playing the Cleveland Browns. That's how easy it is right now, like for the Browns. That's how easy it is. But that's why I like Detroit here, minus 12.5, and Detroit straight up. Next game, Steelers over Colts. I congratulate Jacoby Brissett for getting a huge win over the Colts. Yes, they got an advantage with Deshaun Watson not playing and Tom Savage to play, but again, he has T.Y. Hilton for a reason. I think it was weird that the Colts were even considering trying to trade him because he was the reason why the Colts won the football game on Sunday, or on offense. They really couldn't run the ball, and Tom Savage, had another fumble, which was returned by Lamar Houston for a touchdown. But I think for the Colts, that was just a big win just to give Jacoby some confidence, and it helps the Colts say, okay, we're not out of this division race yet. Jacoby Brissett, with how this division's going, with Tom Savage and Blake Bortles and Mariota, with their inconsistencies, the Colts still have a tiny shot left. Though I do wish Andrew Luck a healthy recovery. I heard today about that report talking about how Andrew Luck, Jim Irsay thinks that the injury, the torn rotator cuff, is all in Andrew Luck's head. I disagree with that. He's played through that injury apparently through the last 2 seasons, and I just think with a guy like him, he doesn't seem like a guy that would fake an injury or overhype an injury. If he's hurt, he's hurt. And I'd rather have a 100% Andrew Luck, for the long-term future than to risk him being his career ending off this injury just because we wanted him to play to get wins. But in this game, I'm going to take Pittsburgh. Obviously, I think Pittsburgh is one of the top defenses in the NFL. Ryan Shazier, the best middle linebacker in the NFL today. for this year is playing phenomenal. Le'Veon Bell will shred this Colts defense. You don't have Malik Hooker back there. I don't think Ben has to be that effective. He was okay last year on Thanksgiving in the stadium against the Colts, and they had Scott Tolzien. I think Jacoby Brissett will put away a better fight than Scott Tolzien. I think everybody should agree with that. But I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers here. More consistent defense, more consistent running game. And the Colts got very fortunate and lucky. I think the Steelers defense is not going to let T.Y. Hilton run through their entire defense to let Jacoby just throw bombs to Brissett to Hilton downfield. Should be a decent game because I think Indy, again, I'm going to take Indy plus 10 because I think the Colts are better than a 10-point cover because Jacoby Brissett's basically put them in position to win every single game. And unfortunately for his own mistakes, or just an error of judgment or an error on the field, they haven't been able to do it. So that's why I like Pittsburgh here. That's why I like Pittsburgh here, straight up. But I'm going to take Indianapolis plus 10. Next game, the Jaguars over the Chargers. The Jaguars are a team that it's hard to manage them. It's hard to quantify how good they are. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and it was on display on Sunday against the Bengals with A.J. Green there for a bit, even until he got ejected for choking out Jags cornerback Jalen Ramsey. But again, they won their 2 games without Leonard Fournette in back-to-back weeks. And Leonard Fournette, I believe, should play this week because it was only disciplined for a team photo. And I don't understand how important a team photo is or how crucial it is that it angered Doug Marrone so much he benched Fournette for this past week. But I'm going to take the Jags here just because I look at the Chargers and they had their nice 3-week run where they beat the Giants, they beat the Raiders, and then they got a dominating win over the Broncos. Now they're going on this stretch where they lost to New England. They're playing Jacksonville. They still have to, let me see. The Chargers still have to play, I can't find Phillip Rivers. Sorry guys, But Rivers and the Chargers still have to play solid teams in the Chiefs again. They have to play. Well, no, they already played the Broncos. But yeah, no, I just look at the. I look at the Chargers and go, this is a team that just is inconsistent. And here we go. Now I found the schedule. All right, the Chargers. They have to play Buffalo. They have to play Dallas. They have to play Washington, KC, and the Jets again. So this is the team that's going to, be in games, but they're going to go on a rough stretch because I think a lot of these teams are better. And also, I'm going to go against the trend because if you look at this year, I think for the Jacksonville Jaguars, every odd week of the year they've won their game, and they've either won it decisively or by blowing them out. In every even week that the Jaguars play, they lose. So that's the thing. I would not be surprised if the Jags lost this game at all. Because that's what they've done this year in the even week. They just somehow play flat or the other team plays over their heads and they lose the football game. But I'm going to take the Jags here because I believe Leonard Fournette will be back. The Chargers are going to get Denzel Perryman, the middle linebacker, back, so that should help in the defense. But I just think with the Jags team of how they're consistently playing defense, I don't think Phillip Rivers can play that well. That Bortles can't outdo him against a much weaker defense. Should be an interesting game because I do think the Chargers can put up a fight, but I'm going to take the Jags here against my better judgment just because I look at this team. They've felt confident. They've won back-to-back games for the first time this year. But I'm going to take the Jaguars just because better defense, and I just don't trust the Chargers in these types of moments. And also the Jags motivated them from last year when they got shellacked 45-14 or 49-14 against the Chargers last year. All right, so that's why I like Jacksonville minus 4.5, and Jacksonville minus 3.5, sorry, and Jacksonville straight up. Next game, Jets over Bucks. The Bucks have been an absolute disappointment after starting 2-1. They've just gone on a cliff. They've lost, I believe, five or six straight games. Jameis is now hurt with an injury. And I just don't have any faith in this Bucs team. Like, they've looked flat, which makes no sense. You have one of the most talented offenses a very talented defense, and they just can't seem to just mesh that all together. And I'm taking the Jets here because that's a decent 4-5 football team. They could have beaten the Dolphins. They should have beaten the Dolphins. They could have beaten the Falcons. They could have beaten Buffalo at a point. And the Jets have just played, solid, steady football. And the Bucs, without Winston, I think there's no W without Winston. And even though, again, I know it's going to be a great opportunity for Ryan Fitzpatrick, the former Jet that is now a Buccaneer, to play his former team. But I'm going to take the Jets here just because I've seen more than a Josh McCown at 39 with that offense and how that team's been coached. And Tampa will be a much more talented team, but not as great coaching in Dirk Cutter. And especially no Winston. Remember, no Winston equals no W for the Bucs. So that's why I like the New York Jets here minus 2.5 and the New York Jets straight up. Next game, the Titans over the Bengals. This one was tough, but I'm going to take the bland buttered white toast Titans team again, just because I've seen the Titans. They have a top 10 running defense. Mariota's been playing really solid football, consistent football, and just seeing how the Bengals kind of self-destructed and how undisciplined they were, I feel like the Titans should be able to take advantage of that. Marcus Mariota does not have an interception in the red zone in his entire career, which is impressive. And I just look at this Titans-Bengals game as a game of where the Titans are just playing more efficiently. The Bengals may have more talent, but the Titans are playing more efficient football. The talent versus efficiency argument, I'd rather have the more efficient team in situations like this than the more talented one that screws up more often. Should be an interesting game, and I have enough respect for the Bengals team offense, and especially, I guess, maybe the lack of Titans pass defense with AJ Green playing to give the Bengals the points. So I'm going to take the Titans straight up, just because I feel like Mariota and Malarkey will be able to put up another solid game plan together to get everybody involved and limit the Bengals' possessions and the running game to win this game. So that's why I like Tennessee here minus 4.5, but I'll take the. I'm sorry. That's why I like the Bengals here plus 4.5, but I'll take the Titans to win. Next game, the Vikings over the Redskins. Very easy. I don't know if Crowder's going to play. I don't know if Reed's going to play, and their offensive line's banged up. The three things Minnesota has that Seattle doesn't. They have a competent kicker, they have a decent, solid running game, and they have a phenomenal defense. The running game, the kicking game, and the offensive line, that's all in the Vikings' favor. Case Keenum is a worse quarterback than Russell Wilson. I think everybody could mostly agree with that. But I think Case Keenum can do another solid job and to win this game. I feel like for Case Keenum, he's playing for the job for the rest of the year, because I feel like if he loses against Washington, there's going to be that opening right there the next week when the Rams go into Minnesota to play Teddy Bridgewater in his first game. I would personally like to see that happen because I'm a Teddy Bridgewater fan, and I think Case Keenum has done an admirable job, but he's earned the right for at least the rest of this year and possibly in the next year to be the backup for the Vikings under Teddy Bridgewater. But I'm going to take the Vikings here for the three main reasons. They have a better kicking game than the Seahawks do, they have a better offensive line than the Seahawks do, and they have a more consistent, kicking game, running game, and offensive line. Those are the three things that the Seattle Seahawks have a significant disadvantage in with this team in the Vikings, and I feel like that's going to grind them out and lead them to another tough, gritty win. And they're also going to want revenge for last year when Sam Bradford went to Washington and lost that game on a last drive, bone-crushing interception. So that's why I like Minnesota here, -1, and Minnesota straight up. Next game, Rams over Texans. It's Tom Savage. They signed Josh Johnson. Not much of an improvement from Tom Savage. And I don't understand why the Texans don't at least take a physical look at a Colin Kaepernick, because I feel like he is the most competent quarterback that's out there, and he would play for Houston just to get money and the job, and I think he could actually do well enough to put the Texans into the playoffs. If they stick with Tom Savage and Josh Johnson the rest of the year, the Texans may not win a game the rest of the year if those two guys are your quarterbacks. But I'm going to take the Rams here. Look, they're the number one offense in the NFL. This has been the ultimate turnaround because last year they were the 32nd ranked offense in the NFL. So to go from 32 to 1 in 1 year is an incredible job by my coach of the year candidate, the head coach of the LA Rams, Sean McVay. Do I, can I see the Texans putting up a fight? Sure. I think the Texans, they have some sort of pride. They have some pride in them. And even with Tom Savage against the Colts, he almost had a chance to beat them. So I feel like with the Rams, they may not be able to really try to stop Houston's running attack, because that's what they're going to, the Texans are going to try to do. But with no Dwayne Brown and having Tom Savage throw the football, I definitely can see another Scott Tolzien type of game in this stadium to rock the quarterback's confidence and to make Bill O'Brien make a harsher move at quarterback sooner than anyone. So that's why I like the LA Rams minus 11.5 and the LA Rams straight up. Next game, Cowboys over Falcons. The Cowboys have been one of the more consistent and solid teams in the NFL. They have 2 of the top 50 pass rushers. Marcus Lawrence is leading the league in sacks. Their offensive line is clicking really well together. And I just trust Dak Prescott to make plays on that Atlanta defense, which has been made a lot of plays on this year in the first place. And I just think of Atlanta, the problem is they're still a bit hungover from the Super Bowl, and Steve Sarkisian's completely butchered this offense. This offense should not be this bad with this much talent on it. But we'll see. And if Zeke doesn't play, I think that's going to be the best chance for the Falcons to win that game. But I think with Alfred Morris and Rod Smith and the occasional Darren McFadden run, that Falcon defense, which has been very rough at times, should be able to get a good ground game going for the Cowboys, for them to let Dak perform his play action passes and rollout passes and checkdowns for the Cowboys to win another game and improve to 6-3. Clearly the second best team in the NFC East. So that's why I like Dallas plus 2.5 and Dallas straight up. Next game, Giants over Niners. Somebody has to win, and I'm going to take the team that has a win. That's it. Sorry for the lack of analysis, but I really cannot tell you anything great about this game. Maybe besides Jimmy Garoppolo starting. But I'm just going to take the Giants because they have one win. The Niners haven't. But I hedged my bet on this game just because I clearly couldn't tell you. If everybody said I'm taking the Niners, I would get it. Just because I think the Niners are just as bad as the Giants. And you could tell me home field. I get it. But I'm just taking the Giants because they have a win. They got Janoris Jenkins back, but these are two of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NFL. And honestly, when you have games like this is just a straight up pick 'em, really, that you can just justify any reason why you had this team winning. I'm serious, any reason, and I'll buy it. So that's why I like the Giants minus 2.5 and the Giants straight up. Next game, the Patriots over the Broncos. I'm going to take the New England Patriots here just because I know Denver is Brady's house of horrors. That is the only team in the NFL with their games in Denver. He has a losing record still, but he was able to win there last time. And just seeing how this Broncos situation is completely folded in on itself, getting smacked by Philadelphia, to cap off getting smacked by the Chargers, and to getting decisively beaten by the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think the Broncos' hearts are going to be into the game, and I feel like for Denver, this is just their last resort, and they still have some tough games coming up that they could win. But until they get their quarterback position fixed, that defense can try all they want. They're going to get wore out by this Patriots offense, even though they may not have Hogan or Amendola they may not have Hogan and Edelman, just leaving Brandon Cooks and Dorsett and Amendola as the 3 main guys to catch. And Gronk. I just think those 4 weapons and how the Patriots are playing. And the Pats defense has played really well over the last month. They've haven't allowed 20 points in 4 consecutive games compared to the last 3 of the first 4 games where they gave up 30-plus points. So I'm going to take the Patriots here just because I trust the defense. I think Tom Brady's going to be rested. He's going to feel motivated to go into Denver and steal another victory. And I just don't see the Broncos offense really being able to do anything, even against the Patriot team. If the Giants can beat them in Denver, most certainly the Patriots can, with a much more talented team and the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. So that's why New England here minus 7.5 and New England straight up. Finally, the Panthers over the Dolphins. this is just one of those games where I'm just sold on the Panthers winning the game. Like, I look at the Panthers and Dolphins, and all you fans can be angry. I look at the Panthers as kind of like a Dolphins team that got lucky. Like, I look at the Panthers and Dolphins, both have very good defenses, even though the Panthers have a better defense, especially with Kuechly. But the offenses are kind of like the same. Like, Cam hasn't really done that much. And over the last, 3 or 4 weeks, putting up 17 against Tampa. You had the game this week where he put up 20 against the Falcons. He put up 3 against the Bears. Just kind of like these weird moments where I'm like, okay, like this Carolina team, it's not a convincing 6-3. They're like the Dolphins that got lucky, in my opinion. Like, because I look at the Dolphins offense, the Dolphins are the dead last offense in the NFL, but there's moments where they play like, the Panthers. The Panthers aren't that far behind, but fortunately they just have a more competent quarterback, and his quarterback can run, which provides an element to the rushing game. But I'm going to take the Panthers here to win this game just because Jay Cutler, he can try, he can do all he wants, but I just don't think he'll be able to shoot Cam Newton or, outmanage Cam Newton in a game of this kind of magnitude on Monday Night Football. Would I be surprised if Miami won? To be honest with you, no, I wouldn't be. Because I think Miami and Carolina are basically similar teams, except one has a, more mobile quarterback and they've got lucky. But with the, and that's what I'm going to go with. Like, this game, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins won this game at all. I'm going to take the Panthers. They're at home again, have the better defense, and have the more competent quarterback situation, and the better running situation. It's not by much, but I'm just going to take all those factors as my main factors to why I expect the Panthers to beat the Dolphins. But I am going to take the Dolphins plus 10 here because I think this game can be much closer than you think. And if Jay Cutler has another one of the games like he did against the Raiders on Sunday night, I don't think he will, but if he does, I think the Dolphins actually have a better chance to win the game through the game than the Carolina Panthers do. So that's why I like Miami there, plus 10, but the Carolina Panthers straight up. So those are my thoughts and picks for this week. So like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. There's a lot of great progs on there. From Geo Knows, Hatbox Nation, Billy B, who's on Hatbox Nation, Logan Schiff, Ryan Harris, Rob's Sports Show, Half Moon's Picks, and Keith Bailey, Gavin OC4, all those guys and gals do great videos like I do, where we give our picks each week for all the games, and we all try to see if we can outthink one another. So please check them out. And that's it. So good luck. I want to wish luck to all the teams, all the players, all the coaches, all the fantasy players, and all the fellow prognosticators in TV, in communities, and on the internet. And until next week, this is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.